This is the Mercedes-Benz CLE 300 Cabriolet. The first, CLE that you're seeing in India. A little bit of C, a little bit of E. A mixture between the two classes. There's features from both segments. But what's special about this particular vehicle is something that I'm going to give you a sneak peek of in a short while from now. But if you look at the front, this electric blue color seems to be doing really well. It's also matching with my outfit in some ways. It has this AMG grille and a very, very low suspension, but this is not an AMG car, and that low suspension means you got to be very, very careful, like every other supercar or sports car, on Mumbai roads or Bangalore or Delhi roads, and those speed breakers and speed bumps, not ideal, I must say. And if you just go for a little bit of a walk around this car, it sits on these 19-inch wheels. They get the job done, because especially when you're driving on these roads with this sort of suspension, that really does help in sort of dampening some of those bumps. A very stiff suspension, which we'll tell you about in a bit. Of course, it is a two-door, and even though it's a two-door, like many of its competitors around the world, it is still a five-seater or a four-seater, so to speak. But I think I've already given away what's very special about the car. You have the CLE 300 branding over here. 4MATIC, that's Mercedes' way of saying that this is an all-wheel drive. I know everyone in India is fascinated with the boot, but let me just be very clear with you. This is not a car that you take to the airport with your family, not the biggest boot. But what's special about this car, which on road is nearly 1.3 crores? We'll tell you what the tech is like. We'll tell you what the engineering is like. We'll also tell you whether this is a good fit for India. But what makes it special compared to the rest of the world is this. 20 seconds is all it takes to really roll down that top and make this a very glamorous car here in Mumbai. But let me get inside and tell you more about this very, very good looking beast by Mercedes. Now the real magic is on the inside, because the only differentiator with this particular car and its rivals is the technology on the inside and the small attention to details. Let me just show you things you have never seen before. Now, for example, you've seen these sort of screens. There's this nice 12-inch screen with Mercedes MBUX running. MBUX runs like a charm. It's a zero-layer sort of a concept, which means that you need just one or two touches to get you anywhere in this menu. But that's not the only thing. By the way, the one touch you do need is to go on settings and put active brake assist off, especially if you're driving in a place like Mumbai where everyone is jaywalking, so the car doesn't just automatically brake. That's a Mercedes thing. But what if you put this top down and it's really glaring? In the tech world, we talk about nits of peak brightness and all these layers and coating. The real smart way of doing jugaad, but this is a luxurious car, so let's call it lean and wise engineering, happens to be this button right here. And just watch what happens. So you can actually adjust the screen to avoid glare and to get it closer to you on the driver's side. Now, since we are talking about this particular 12.3-inch screen, you realize that everything on it is entirely digital. And if you want to figure out stuff like the air purification in the car or the ambient lighting, it's all possible in this particular, system. Now, obviously, this is a 20-second process to open the roof and close the roof. But there's that small attention to detail. What if the wind is always fluttering, spoiling the steak, and it's also drizzling a bit? But I press this button and you see how this air filter or air visor has popped up in the front and at the back for the front passenger and the back passenger to keep you in a cocoon, even though the car is technically opened up in its convertible form. Now, there's other things that are also in this car with a lot of tech, with 10 airbags, and more importantly, a 360-degree camera, which ensures that you have all sorts of camera views, and then you also have parking assistance, blind spot assist, Type-C charging ports, and wireless charging pads right here. The cool thing also is, as soon as you open the door of the car, and if you're maybe a little healthier than I am and you want to essentially access the seat belt, the seat belt comes to you. Is there a better way to embody luxury? And a better way to really tell you in your face that you should be a lot safer. The seat belt tightens up like all Mercedes cars. That big focus on safety is great. Ventilated seats and heated seats. And if you're driving perhaps in the winter months, especially in North India or in the mountains, they also have this really cool feature called an air scarf. literally hot air blows around your neck region, just like you're wearing a warm scarf to keep you warm, fuzzy, and well, really comfortable in cold weather. So there's a lot of attention to detail. The one thing that is not very practical is what strangely last week we saw with the Thar Rocks solved the problem in its segment, that you essentially need to move the seat ahead when you want to access the rear seats, and then the passenger has to go at the back. But there's a hack with this car. It's not a sunroof that makes it feel more airy or just a glass panel on top. The whole top actually comes off in a matter of 20 seconds. So if the roof is intact, someone the size of the people on the Tech Today team will find it very uncomfortable to sit there, gets claustrophobic. The air conditioning vents help, but it's still not practical. The minute you actually put the top down, when it opens up, this is unlimited headroom. Anyone over 6 feet, 6 feet 5 inches, the great Khali, everyone will be comfortable in this car, at least when it comes to really fitting when the convertible soft top is down. This nearly 12-inch display over here for the driver does the job perfectly. It's not too big like some of those EVs. It's there, you can go into sport mode, you can obviously get a bunch of things over here, and the heads-up display is crystal clear. It feels like you're doing one of those optometry tests because everything shows up over there. Even if you want something as simple as changing the modes from sport to classic, or you want to go back to the settings. Honestly, we've seen how PB Pro works on Range Rovers, but if you're talking about the German car makers, Mercedes gets it right. Now, of course, all the information's over here, but what if you want to rely on the heads-up display, that projection that you see right in front of me? Just swipe up over here. You can go to Sport, which I love because I don't have to look at anything over here. By the way, this central console can also be controlled from here, which is also super cool. But if I look at the heads-up display over here, I can change things around and really customize, right? If I want to go into the minimal, very simple, giving me the basic data, sport, standard, really change the settings over here in terms of brightness and stuff like that as well. Just turn off the heads-up display. I can do that as well. It's really, really intuitive. But coming back to this particular screen, of course, it comes with Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. But one more bit in terms of the attention to detail that I want to talk about. You saw what this filter is all about. You saw the seat belt coming out for you. You saw how the roof really changes its different statuses. So here's the thing, if you reduce the temperature, you see the ambient lighting, especially over here with this vent turning blue. That's really a 4D sort of a setup. And you increase the temperature, it goes from warmer, 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 all the way till red. And I think these are the small attention to detail that genuinely make Mercedes a cut above the rest. Now, I'm not going to talk about cabin insulation because obviously when you open it all up, dust, cabin, everything, you are grounded with all your surroundings. But if you're talking about competition, this is slightly underpowered if you compare it to a BMW Z4. You don't get that same torque, that same thrust. Well, after all, this is a Mercedes. Mercedes has this sort of legacy of being the car you want to be driven around in. A BMW often is for performance enthusiasts. Maybe the M-Line, the M340 or the Z4 are cars that you would consider. But if you want a car that's a lot more practical, and more importantly, the tech is on point and looks like $1 million, then this seems to be the right option for you. Now, the minute you sit in this cabin, it feels like luxury. You see the mix of soft and hard touch over here. You also see that everything's laid out really well. You have ventilated seats, and this Napa leather over here will also give you that sense of opulence and luxury. The speakers are obviously integrated into the seats, but the interiors seem very similar to the C-Class, not so much the E-Class. The carbon fiber treatment is all over the dashboard, and of course all of this houses the engine start-stop button. Now, there's a fair amount of storage space over here. You have cup holders, a small little cabin over here, some bottle holders on the side. When you open this up also, there's USB-C charging ports, there's wireless charging over here. The tech is on point, but like I said, it's not very practical to get in and out of. Sometimes when you pull the string on this particular seat and you want someone to get inside the car, this is supposed to move ahead as well. There are things that aren't necessarily the most practical, but this is not for your family. This is for someone who enjoys driving. And most importantly, even if you want to, well, deploy the roof or you want to put it back on, that system takes around 20 seconds. So if I were to do it right now, pressing it now, and if you do the counting, I can go on talking for 20 seconds, but you need to see the visual to understand how this actually works. The air filter has gone down, and now I am in a car with a roof. And if you want to take the roof down, all of this can be done up to the speed of 60 kilometers per hour. If you're over 60 km per h, then this won't happen. It's a lovely evening here in Mumbai. So we want to see what the drive in the CLE 300 Cabriolet is like. So obviously that means that we're going to put the top down and also put the car in D and take this for a little spin. Now, before we talk about drive quality, we need to understand that this is an absolute showstopper, because this really is a lot of eyeballs and stares and wows, because that's what this car looks like, $1 million. What's it like to drive? So one thing I am worried about with that really low ground clearance is that every time I approach a speed breaker, I got to slalom through it on a tilt and then make sure that it doesn't scrape the bottom. No air suspension, nothing like the EQS as well, where it sort of has that dynamic, tech-driven, lifts itself up by itself when it spots that old speed breaker. So not ideal. Also, in traffic and with all the dust and pollution, maybe this is not that practical in a city like Mumbai. But yeah, it also in the night feels a little underpowered. So if you want something that looks really good, yes, this is it. But a 4-cylinder, 2-liter engine, it's not an AMG. So while it has the AMG bells and whistles in terms of maybe a pedal and a look and a grille, it doesn't have that grunt in the engine. And I think that's something we miss out in this absolutely gorgeous Cabriolet. Yes, this is a 4-cylinder, 2-liter engine. Does feel underpowered. If you're spending 1.3 crores, then you obviously have a slightly more inexpensive Z4, which is a performance beast. It's subjective in terms of looks. I think this one looks much better. But do you want something which looks better and has the tech on point, or do you want something which is truly for performance? That's really a question you need to answer. But yeah, also how practical is it? Even with this air filter that I'm putting up right now, the wind does actually come in and there's all sorts of pollution and dust. So a lot more maintenance and cleaning. So whoever's cleaning the car, that's going to be a little bit more work for that particular individual. Well, the number of stairs you get, especially when the top is down, and it's kind of understandable. You don't see too many cars like this on Indian roads. Is it practical? Sometimes the dust gets in, sometimes the water falls in your face, the pollution. But this is a car, if you understand what this really means, it is an enthusiast car with this very special feature, which my team can control from behind the scenes as well. 20 seconds, and that's what I have to tell you. This is 1.3 crores. Maybe you can make this a reel later. And this is a car for enthusiasts. Absolutely splendid drive, a little underpowered. Maybe you have better options from BMW, but that's only on the performance side. In terms of luxury and tech, the Mercedes CLE 300 Cabriolet is unmatched in its space, a true enthusiast car.